So good morning everyone. Let's start with our daily market commentary. Now what we have seen is basically in front of us is S&P 500, again the daily chart. Let's go out and just visit the weekly format and then we are back to the daily one. What I see from the weekly front, the important level we had already decided was 2750 and 40 kind of level, where it has now breached and it is going down towards 2680 level. So where the complete weekly green Moribazu was formed. Second thing which is clearly understood from this particular setup or weekly format, there is still downside remaining on S&P 500. Right now, when we go out now and look in the daily format, things are pretty much clear as to what has exactly happened. So there was a gap up as we had discussed prior. It went above, came back down, almost tested the same gap. Okay, so it should have bounced back from these levels, but it did not. And as we see, it opened yesterday, the day before yesterday, it just opened gap down and it just went one way down. Now, idea is pretty much clear. It is under pressure because of the FOMC thing, but the agenda is pretty much clear that it cannot just turn bullish. Okay, so obviously on the results of FOMC or what the commentary comes out, it can turn out to be bullish, but right now the bearish mode is still in the continuous process. Seeing that, we can again assume that in next 2 days or so, then it can have a downward pressure, and that can bring again one bout of volatility on Nifty and Bank Nifty or to other emerging markets as well. Coming back to the Nifty, what we see was two important things which have changed. First, large amount of falling has taken place from 10,400 straight away towards 10,000, and it basically brought Nifty to a very good support range level. Right, so 10,100 and 10,000 level were the range for us, which we have decided on the weekly format as well, are good kind of support. Now what I see, what has changed yesterday, it opened gap down, but it pulled itself up. So that was one positive sign. And today you are seeing one more gap up and it is trying to pull itself further high. Okay, so that is good. Now we need to understand how much upside rally is still possible. So let's go down to the weekly format, and it is pretty much clear that yes, if it goes up, pretty much these are the levels where the selling had come through. So 10,400 were the levels where back large amount of selling was in place, and then the second level was 10,600. Now obviously it cannot reach 10,600, but yes, even if it reaches towards 10,400, you can find selling coming back to the zone of 10,000 or so. But on the weekly front, this setup remains very strong support of 10,100, and that is where this entire week it has basically touched that level and it is trying to pinch on the higher side. Now when I go on the daily format, it has opened gap up and it is trying to go on higher. When I see here, first there is a level of resistance at 10,200 itself. That's the red Moribazu, and then straight away the other one is towards 10,350. Now what I go down in the hourly chart, things will be pretty much clear as to where large amount of resistance is piling out. Now what I see over here on the hourly chart, there was a continuous fall which took place. Then there was a stop and it basically becomes a complete engulfing pattern with gap up, gap down opening and complete bullishness. It almost went sideways, and today you have again a gap up mode. Now this is the level of resistance which we were talking about, a small hindrance for Nifty towards this 10,200 or so. But if it is able to cross these levels, then you can see further upside towards 10,350 easily likely. Right. So on the intraday format, we need to keep looking at these current level 10,230 kind of zone, where can it cross or not, and if it crosses, then there can be further more upside for Nifty. Now try to understand, these are small bounces which will keep happening. Okay, so when I see from the higher front, 10,600 came down almost towards 10,100. It bounced 50% from top, and if you take from the bottom, correct? So if you take from the top 10,600, it went down towards 10,100 or so, and it bounced back around 50-60% of the entire range. Second time now, the range is from 10,400 to 10,100 or so, and again it is trying to back up towards 50% of this. So I would suggest around 10,300, 10,350, again, one round of resistance will come into play. So keeping that in mind, small bounces will keep coming, but agenda is pretty much clear whether it can sustain or not, right? Being FOMC results and the bout of volatility, it is hard to believe it can just go beyond 10,400 or 10,600, right? So that is where the range of Nifty will lie. Coming down now to the Bank Nifty side, Bank Nifty has been bearish more compared to Nifty. And what I see even on Bank Nifty front, the biggest plus point where 24,000 being a very good support range has been basically been added as one more good pointer to itself, because this is the second time after a huge fall, it is now taken some kind of support around these zones. Try to understand, because these zones taken out, then you can have a good round of selling coming into place, even in Bank Nifty towards 10,000, 23,500 kind of zone, right? So downside is huge, but it is good that it is taking support at these levels. Again, the same format lies. If you see from the top, the fall took place. It almost bounced not even half of the entire fall, which was there in the case of Nifty. But again, from here, another round of selling took place from 25,800 towards 24,000. Not even half what was retraced. So idea is pretty much clear. It can keep bouncing from the lower levels, but the bounce is not good enough to sustain on the higher side, right? So same we are seeing in Nifty, same we are seeing in Bank Nifty as well. But Bank Nifty seems to be under a lot of pressure compared to Nifty. Now what we see on the daily front, things are pretty much clear in Bank Nifty. On the higher end, this level of 25,000 is a strong resistance on the upper side, and straight away then it is 25,600, 700 kind of zone. Okay, now what we see over here, this is the first bounce, and first bounce normally do not make large amount of highs. This is the second bounce where he's trying to go, and if FOMC does not give away, it can again go down towards this 24,000 or maybe below that as well, right? So that is what we need to be very much cautious. So it is better to be away from the screen at least for 3-4 days, where there will be large amount of volatility without any reason. So example, Nifty, it was going down and all of a sudden it opens today gap up. What is the reason? They can have any reason for this particular format of opening, right? It is just the kind of volatility, and it is better to be away or have strict trades as per your structures. Just do not go in and trade for the sake of it. Okay, now let's take some of the stocks and trying to understand the gainer and loser. So what I see on the gaining side, now all of a sudden the gaining has been very, very different. And it is very interesting as well. Now, if you see over here, the gainers are those stocks which were big losers. So IOC, BPCL were the big losers, and now all of a sudden you see today it is opening with gap up and bouncing higher. Right? So that is one of the good input that we can understand. Those who were bearish a lot has basically given the first bounce. Right? So BP, IOC were going down a lot, and then you see a quick bounce in this segment. Second, SBI, as we know, after the PNB, they have been going down. Again, you see SBI, Yes Bank, Axis Bank. Now there is no IndusInd Bank and Kotak Bank over here. Correct? Through and through last 2 weeks, we are seeing Kotak Bank, IndusInd Bank making new highs or going high. Now, if we see, there are no gainers of Kotak and IndusInd. Okay, and even HDFC. So these are not there. Now these the stocks which were not there before. So Axis, Yes Bank, SBI, these were the losers, and now suddenly you find them as the gainers. So this basically shows that the continuous losing streak is being stopped. The kind of reversal is being seen in these kind of stocks. So clearly what I see today, Axis Bank, Yes Bank, SBI, IOC, BPCL, all the stocks were cracking down, even Indiabulls Housing Finance. And this is just the first dead cat bounce, right? So you cannot go beyond these stocks thinking that they will go further up, trying to pinch Nifty higher, right? So that's not the kind of stocks we would want on the gainers list, where thinking that Nifty will have further more strength to go on the upside. So that is first take. Second, when we see in the loser side, now loser side, there is some kind of IT which is under the hammer, and it's basically Tech Mahindra, which is the first guy, which has been going high every day. And that is why you can find some kind of selling coming in Tech Mahindra. But apart from Tech Mahindra, from the IT space, it's only Wipro. So Infosys and Tata PCS and all are now more or less on the range bound mode. Now what I see on the losing side, you have straight away Hero Moto. and you have some kind of auto segment. So there are not large amount of selling, as you see. It's hardly even, not even 0.5%, but more or less some kind of auto stocks are under the hammer, and then you have some IT pack. So the interesting takeaway is from the gainers side, right? Today's gainers are not the guys who can take Nifty higher to another level. Try to understand. That's the biggest understanding that one should have. The market structure basically says it is not bullish. You do not have Reliance, you do not have HDFC, you do not have ITC, you do not have L&T. So all those stocks which were continuously losing are just showing strength today. That does not mean Nifty can just shoot higher, right? So that is the first biggest takeaway. Now let's take some of the stocks. Now first from the, let's take the heavyweight to understand the flow. So if I'm taking Reliance, HDFC, all these stocks which are heavyweights of Nifty, let us see where they are headed, and then we can have some kind of view on Nifty, right? So we are not saying it cannot go up, it can go up, but then let's see whether these stocks are helping Nifty to go up or not. Now what I see on Reliance, it's not been making new high, that is fine. The good amount of selling has been taken place. Second time it has come towards these level of 888 or 875 zone, right? There was a continuous fall in Reliance, and today it shows a small gap up opening. It's basically kind of a small pullback rally. So when I see Reliance, at least it is not fully on the upside. It is going sideways, but the good point is it has been corrected a lot in last 4 days, and you can have one good rally on the upside. Now upside again will be limited towards this 930 kind of zone from where the sell-off has taken place. Correct. So at least Reliance can show some kind of upside. Now let's take L&T from the construction pack. L&T has remained strong, but if I see L&T again, same as kind of Reliance. It's going almost on the sideways zone, and now we are seeing L&T trying to shoot higher. Prior resistances which are there around this zone, it can go high towards 1350 or so. So agreed that even L&T is showing good amount of strength. This is like a second bottom formation after the Moribazu, 2 green candles trying to pinch higher towards above the resistance level of 1315, right? This was a continuous resistance mode where it is trying to inch higher. So that is there even on L&T. Now let's take 2 HDFC twins. So HDFC Bank and HDFC, 2 guys where we can focus on. Again, if I see HDFC Bank, nothing very much surprising even on HDFC Bank. So again, good amount of selling has taken place. One small bounce on the higher level is quite possible. So what I see on Reliance, what I see on HDFC, the selling has been done, and you can have a small bounce in these kind of stocks. And let's see even the HDFC Limited. Now HDFC Limited was showing good amount of strength as compared to HDFC Bank. Now if I go and see HDFC Limited, that's one of the good stocks actually. If you see over here, there was a good rally, came back down, tested the same base. Again yesterday, one full red candle followed by green candle, and now it is inching with a gap up mode, right? So HDFC Limited is trying to find a good upside, and even HDFC Bank is also following the suit. So idea is pretty much clear. Both of them are on the base and can go upside, even Reliance, even L&T, and now let's see even the ITC. So ITC, the same story applies. So what I'm seeing in each of these heavyweight stocks, they have corrected a lot, have come to a good support base, and they are ready to zoom higher. Good stock like ITC, it has corrected a lot, but now what I see over here, today's gap up is basically above the prior resistance. So ITC can have a good zoom up and can provide support to Nifty as well. So all these stocks are ranging at their good support levels, trying to show some kind of reversal, and that is why you're seeing today gap up in Nifty, but that contribution is not by these good stocks. Try to understand, right? So contribution has come from other stocks which were beaten down a lot. So ITC is done. Then we go out and see the heavyweights of banks. So ICICI Bank, which has been the losing, which has been on the losing streak. When I see ICICI, it was almost down by 10% or more, 15% kind of fall. When I see a quick bounce back, again the falling took place, right? This is the second time he's trying to inch higher, but we will see good amount of resistance on ICICI Bank, right? So keeping that in mind, this is where I find Bank Nifty to be weak. HDFC Bank is on a good support, but not inching high. What I see on ICICI, he has been the culprit in Bank Nifty fall, right? So this is a good base where it can come again to test at 285 kind of zone and inch on the downside. So one thing to remember over here, ICICI, HDFC, ICICI still remains weak, and then you have Axis Bank as today's gainer. So let's see what's happening on Axis Bank. So Axis Bank has remained a strong candidate because this was the gap up and Moribazu coming around these levels, and now it is trying to find a second bottom formation around these levels. Now Axis Bank has seen good amount of upside. Okay, so Axis Bank now seeing sideways zone, not on the falling format of ICICI or even the other bank. So at least Axis Bank is in the supporting zone. Then you have Yes Bank. So Axis and Yes Bank, even today, if you see Axis is the gainer, and then you are followed by Yes Bank. Now Yes Bank, if you see, it has opened gap up and it is trying to inch higher, right? So the fall was fast in Yes Bank. The rise can also be fast in Yes Bank. So today's candidate of Yes Bank can basically pull itself up much higher from the current levels. Even if I see on the hourly chart, this is how it is clearly visible. Now what is happening on Yes Bank? Good amount of correction going sideways, and today's gap up opening is very, very important. Why? Because today's gap up opening is above so many resistance level of 304, 305 range, correct? And this basically gives us a good amount of understanding that there will be a good support around this level of 304, 305, and if it takes a support around this zone, higher levels of 312 or 315 is easily possible. So 2% up move is quite possible in Yes Bank because of the gap up opening above all the resistances, right? So these kind of setups are very seldom to find, and you can have good amount of upside coming into place. Even if I go out and see half an hour candle formation, if you see over here, this is much more clear. It opened gap up, it was trying to go up, again it tested the same base, and now it is trying to zoom up. Further going down in 15 minutes, it will be more visible, correct? So this is how things pan out. Obviously hourly candle will give you much more clear indication compared to the 15 minutes or 5 minutes. Those are pretty much noise, but agenda is pretty much clear. First hour of trade, and it is in gap up and complete bullish mode, right? And in the gainers list as well. So you can look at Yes Bank, and it has good amount of capacity to go up because it has opened above all these resistances, right? So that is more good takeaway from one of the chart of Yes Bank. Then I want to look at, so we have taken Axis, ICICI, Yes. Now let's take two candidates who were strong in the banking. Now what I see, this is what I was trying to say. In the Kotak Bank, it just went down one way. Okay, so when he was zooming high, trying to sustain higher levels, and here is there the gap down opening, and then it zooms down for continuous 3 days. Now what I see on Kotak Bank, it has opened gap up. Okay, so opening gap up, the fall was fast, the rise can also be fast. So you can find again a bounce up on Kotak. Even today, 10 rupee rally is easily possible. So it is right now at 1056, 1065 is easily possible on Kotak Bank, and even higher if it crosses the upper point of the Moribazu, 1064. Okay, so that is one point, Kotak Bank after correction. Now IndusInd Bank, the same case has happened with IndusInd as well. What I see on IndusInd Bank, the correction was steep, then it went up, but the good part is now it is going sideways. So Kotak Bank corrected a lot, but if you see, IndusInd Bank has not been corrected at all. So still it is showing good amount of strength, right? So the Kotak and IndusInd can again provide support to Bank Nifty, and along with those, even if Yes Bank, and then you have HDFC also following the suit. So Bank Nifty can get some kind of support from these large banks. Okay, so let's take Maruti. So Maruti, if you see, obviously it is one of the king stock in auto segment. What I see on the Maruti, it is pretty much clear the same format. Now what has happened? The fall has happened, continuous bounce is taking place, but the bounces are lower, right? So the bounces are not high, it is continuously making lower lows. Now what is strikingly important over here is in today's structure. First, continuously formed support around 8600 kind of levels. The good point was a continuous red candle at the resistance level, okay, and then you followed by two green candles happening back to back for 2 days. Then today it is opening gap up, the most important point is to go above the Moribazu level and sustain. And this is what we are seeing on the daily chart, right? And this is terrific because it has corrected a lot, going sideways. Then you have one of your pattern. Even here, the complete selling took place and two green candles were shown. It went up also, but then again selling came at these levels of 8872. Today what I see, the selling came again, it is reaching to those same level, but it is trying to breach 8880 levels, and that clearly shows a significant upside for Maruti towards 9100 or 9150 kind of zone. So good uptick of at least 100 plus is possible on Maruti. So that is a good signature setup that we can see. But even here, rather than seeing daily, let's go out and see on the hourly basis. So when I go on hourly basis, it is pretty much similar to what we were discussing on Yes Bank, right? It went down, it went up, again it opened. So yesterday it was gap up, it zoomed high. Today it is gap up, zooming high, but it is pretty much clear it is in the prior resistance zone. But it might come back to test these levels of 8880 in intraday basis, and it can zoom higher on 100 plus points. So even Maruti seems to be one of the good stocks to zoom high. So at least to 9100 level is clearly visible on Maruti as well. And after opening gap up and above the important resistance level. So if you go out and see even on the 15 minutes chart, just to understand whether it is trying to go up or not. So first 15-minute candles, if you see, two candles it was up, and now it is trying to sustain above these 8900 levels. So that is a clear information on Maruti and Yes Bank, that both, even Kotak Bank, can basically have a huge upside for a couple of days or so. So considering all these stocks, I'm not going into oil marketing companies. It is clearly a dead cat bounce. But what I see over here, back to Nifty, the big stocks have not played its card, right? So these are just the cyclical stocks which are going down. They have bounced up. But if those stocks, Reliance, HDFC, L&T, Yes Bank, even Maruti, all these starts performing in the second half, you can find a good uptick in Nifty at least towards 10,300 or 350 levels. Now, how is it possible? 100 points up. It is clearly visible if it crosses current level. So 10,220 to 40 are the levels where it should cross. Once it crosses, there is a good upside of at least 60, 70, 80 points on the intraday basis. Now, why we are saying that is because the heavyweights champions have not participated in the today's gap up move, and then if they come up with some strength, the good upside can be seen in Nifty, right? But coming down to Bank Nifty, things are pretty much again more on the sideways because HDFC is not zooming, ICICI is not zooming. So Bank Nifty might find some resistance at the lower levels, but Nifty has a more chance of going on the higher side. Right, so keeping that in mind, and more important, now we are almost on the Wednesday. FOMC meeting will be out, and then try to understand this is Thursday and Friday, and then you have holiday, and today, this time the expiry is on 28th. So we are inching towards the expiry zone. It will remain volatile. It might go up, and because of FOMC, all the gains can go down in a jiffy, right? So that's what I'm saying. It will be volatile expiry, so it's better to be away from it. Obviously, if this bounce has taken place, many people will take a chance to sell. But now, being FOMC, if the signals come out to be lenient of rate hikes, then you can find one up move rally in all the stocks and index and stuff like that. So these are two deciding days. But after that, again, it will be inching towards the expiry, and you can have complete gains eradicated, right? So that kind of volatility will be clearly seen. And what I see on Bank Nifty, it can go high, but then again, it will find some amount of resistance. When I go and see even Nifty on the daily format, I agree it can go up, but again, once it goes up towards 10,350 levels, there is good amount of resistance or selling, which is quite possible, right? So keep those in mind and try to be little away only with the constructive space to trade on intraday basis, but do not try to trade and keep trades for this expiry. It's going to be a tricky expiry and most volatile one, right? Thank you for joining in. We'll connect again tomorrow with more of the FOMC impact on S&P 500 and daily analysis.